You know Korean, from what I've heard.
네, 알 수 있어요.
Wow. Welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of the Voice of Generation Now video podcast. My name is Owen Smith, and I'm so glad to be your host today. I would love to introduce our great audience in the house, including Esther, who stuck around. We just recorded with her 20 minutes ago. Not even 20 minutes ago, more like 2. But our special guest today for episode number 4 is Sydnie Wilson. Thanks for coming on, Sydnie.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to talk about how you're in media services. You are a media services video production assistant. Did I get that correct?
You missed one word.
One word.
It's Media Services Video Production Graduate Assistant.
Graduate assistant.
I'm not just anybody. I'm a graduate assistant.
You're a graduate assistant. All right. So just tell me, what does that entail?
A lot of different things. Mainly it's continuing a role that I took on as a senior media services student. And that's directing events or being a camera operator or just handling the media that is recorded from those events and then editing the videos, uploading to where they need to be, and then storing them in archive. And so I've gone up into higher roles of that, of being the one who's directing students now and producing the events, as well as managing essentially all of the media archive and making sure that things go where they need to be, people can find certain things. I've come to become the librarian of media services in a sense, and they'll be like, hey, we need an event from 2016 in the fall. Can you find it? And I'm just like, found it. Where do you need me to put it?
So do you have a bunch of that stuff just right there, essentially?
Yes. Technically, it's a network drive. There's a physical machine in the rack room or in the database room of a building that I will not mention yet.
Top secret.
Exactly. But it's connected to the network, which is just the internet for just Olivet. And then the drives I can access on any workstation that has connection to it. So there's literally petabytes of data that we could have. We don't have petabytes of data, but there's a limit of petabytes of data we could have.
That's crazy. Talk about stuff that media services is what they help with. Obviously, they do chapel. You see the camera operators there, but maybe talk about some stuff that people don't know about where media services is involved.
Media services is in a lot. So this classroom that they're in right now, they switched the lights recently. That's media services. That workstation over here with the computer and the projector, that's media services.
Dang.
If that projector screen ever fails, media services fixes it. The lights turning on automatically, media services. There's a lot of stuff that they do behind the scenes that most people don't even realize is media services. We also allow departments to rent certain things from us. So we have audio equipment, we have video equipment, as long as they put in a ticket and say, hey, I need this for this thing. Can we do that? We have that, sure. Or no, let's find a different solution. So there's many things that we do behind the scenes.
Are you guys involved at the variety show stuff like that with a bunch of crazy different stuff?
100%.
That's what I thought.
The lighting, the video, the audio, when it comes to making sure the students know how far they need to be up in the stage, how wide they need to be, what paths they need to take in the chapel. So every Ollie's Follies, we make sure that each class of students that is performing knows the exact path that they need to take to get on stage and off of stage, right? One of the things that I often hear from Matt Steinecker, who's the audio and lighting manager of media services, is do not lean on the railing. The railing is for the little old weak women who need, those things so they don't fall over, right? But it's not for 20-year-olds who are excited because, especially for the guys, those things are at a certain height where you don't want to get hit. So please do not lean on the railing because they'll break.
That's funny. All right, so we're going to talk about, you're doing your master's degree right now at ONU, or that is correct?
Yes, I'm taking the Master's of Organizational Leadership at Olivet.
So how's that?
It's going all right. I've got 2 more classes after this one. I think
wow.
I'm on because they're all 8-week courses, right? So if you've ever taken a course during the summer that's 8 weeks, it's essentially that, just one after the other, after the other, after the other. And you only have breaks in July for 4th of July week, and I think 2 weeks near the end of the year, so Christmas and New Year's. Those are the only breaks you get, and everywhere else in the year, you are taking classes, you are getting textbooks, you are writing essays, you are replying to discussion posts.
Wow. So it just keeps going and going and going and going. Besides
Essentially,
those two.
right? And you get different courses talking about different things. So for my coursework, it's talking about ethics of leadership, how to lead properly, the basics of what leaders should know, so like financials and things like that, that you kind of get like a foothold in, but not like in-depth type of stuff.
That's wild. That's crazy. So really off topic right now. You know Korean from what I've heard.
Yeah, I see so.
Wow. Holy
And that was,
smokes.
yes, I know how to.
That's
in
crazy.
Korean.
So how, like, why? Like, why'd that come up? Or just like, what made you want to learn Korean?
There were many things that converged at the same time when I was about 12 or 13 years old that led me down this path. The first was I loved different cultures.
Interesting.
And at that time, I was more into anime and manga than anything. I know that has become big now with like your guys' generation or
Yeah.
this younger Gen Z generation. But when I was a kid, barely anybody was talking about anime and manga. So essentially, I just had it to myself. And it was just like my thing that I got to do. And so I really fell in love with learning about a different culture that was like halfway across the world, right? And the completely different language, completely different way of relating to each other, because many of those countries are hierarchical, where like the father has precedence over the family, and then like people in government have higher precedence over everybody else. And so it's a lot of hierarchy there. But how I got into Korean was I needed a course, a language course for high school because I was homeschooled. And so I could have chosen Spanish or any other language, but I was like, you know what, Korean sounds pretty cool. 2, because I was into Korean music. Now, when you think of Korean music, you immediately think of
K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah.
That was not what I was into. I was
There's
actually
different?
There's a bunch of stuff that Korea does. They do hip hop and R&B and folk and rock. And so I was really into the K-R&B and hip hop side because the way that they speak when they rap is just so awesome. It flows so well and it just sounds so hard, right? And so
sounds
I
so
was
hard.
was really into that. And I was like, you know what? It'd be really cool if I could understand what they're saying without having to go to a lyrical video every time I found a song I liked. So that was the second reason. And then the third reason was because at a certain point, I found that their culture was just something that was so cool to learn about. I had already learned a little bit about the Japanese culture, but the Korean culture pulled me in a way that I was like, this, even though it's such a small country, it has such a rich history, being in between two larger powers, essentially, in between China and the Han Dynasty and the dynasties of China that existed, and then Japan. Right, and so they had two major powers in the world in this small country, which is now leading in a lot of ways alongside those two countries, and it was just amazing. So I just delve headfirst into it, finding any free resource that I could about learning Korean, starting with the alphabet and numbers, and then just working my way up. And I essentially did it mostly free. I didn't get any tutors. I didn't get any like special coursework. I found as many free resources as I could, and then just wrote and spoke and did whatever I could to get it in my head. I listened to videos, I listened to like people singing, all types of stuff to be like, all right, I want to keep this. And even after high school ended and I didn't have to do language courses anymore, I still kept with it because at that point I had unintentionally, but maybe intentionally, encultured myself to Korea in such a way that it just became a part of me.
Wow. That's crazy. I'm kind of in agreement with you of like being interested in different cultures. Cause like, so I love baseball. I love Japanese baseball culture. It is very different than American baseball culture. You watch a Japanese game and like they're all going crazy like during the game. Baseball is just like everyone's like, and then when like something happens, they cheer, but like they're going crazy. They're like they got all these like antics that they do. It's crazy, but they're so nice over there.
Yes.
Japanese people are super nice.
Yes.
They're very kind. That's also the thing I've learned. But like my favorite baseball player is Japanese. And it's like, they're so nice. They're so awesome.
I think I know who that. What is his name?
Seiya Suzuki.
Yes.
Yes. He's awesome. I love Seiya Suzuki.
Yes.
I can
No,
go
they
on
are
and on about that guy.
Very polite society. Very polite.
And Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah,
like
Ohtani,
he's
yeah.
like taking the world by storm.
Exactly.
And he's not from here. Like the guy was like some high school kid and taking the world by storm already. Came over here, now he's the best player in the world. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is.
It's wild. Okay, enough about sports because I can go on and on and on about that. So you have an interesting story of what I heard of how you met your college roommate. Is that true?
Oh, Kat, yes.
Go for it. Tell us a story.
So, as a incoming freshman, 18 years old, fresh out of homeschool high school, where I was pretty much just with my 3 siblings for most of my academic life, I had to find a roommate, right? At orientation, you got to find somebody you have to house with for the rest of your, freshman year at least. That first semester, you got to find somebody. And so usually they have like those freshman meetups, right? Where you'd be like, okay, meet somebody, see what you like, see if there's anybody, right? This was even before that. This was like the day we had to go to Centennial, because then we had orientation that was like over 2 days, maybe even 3 days. That first day that we had to go to Centennial for the opening whatever, I sat at like the far end of the lobby, away from all the throng of people, because I was just like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
You don't like
I don't
people.
Really, at that time, I really didn't like being around people.
I was in the same boat when I came into freshman year.
So I was just like all the way across at the end of the lobby, like sitting at one of the couches, and I just sat there waiting for this thing to start. And then a girl walks up, and she sits on an adjacent couch, right? Not the one that I'm on, but like the one that's like at an L with it. And then we kind of like glanced at each other and then looked back down. Right, and then so for like a couple awkward, maybe minutes, maybe seconds, I can't remember, we were just like in silence, but like near each other. But then our parents started walking, tried to find us, and found both of us. So first it was my parents, and then her parents came, and then they just started a conversation. And at that point, I was still minding my own business. She was minding her own business, but my parents were chatting it up so well, talking about this and that, homeschooling, life in the military, life as a pastor, yada, yada, yada. And then roommate. I heard roommate, and I was like, oh, no. Oh, gosh. And she heard roommate, too, because I saw her face.
The dreaded word.
Exactly. And so my parents essentially set it out to be like, hey, Sydnie, why don't you go room with Kat? She hasn't found anybody yet either. And I'm just like, sure, I guess so. And essentially the rest is history. When orientation essentially began, an even cooler part was we kind of like stuck together for the rest of orientation. But what was it? Williams. Williams was the place that we had to stay for that night. And her roommate didn't show up. My roommate didn't show up. So we were essentially each having our own room at that time.
Wow.
But we had our phone numbers, so we texted each other and we said, hey, my roommate didn't show up. Your roommate didn't show up? Mine didn't show up either. Why don't we room right now? And so I went to her floor, took all my stuff, and we just spent orientation together. I even remember braiding her hair.
That's kind of awesome.
Like, I was not the type of person to be like this outgoing and this like interacting with people, but I was like, there was something different about Kat, right? And so freshman year came, and we were roommates, and we loved it. I have pictures from that day still on my phone, and I love looking back at them. Sophomore year came, we kind of had to split up because we weren't able to get rooms at the same time, housing, period. It's about to come up for some of y'all soon.
Yep.
Yeah. And then junior year, we were like, all right, she didn't like her roommate. I was fine with my roommate, but I was like, I really want to room with Kat again. So we got an apartment. What was it? I think it was Grant. No, it was UP.
UP.
We got UP. I really like UP. For anybody who knows UP, I love it.
Shout out Prof. Bishop.
Yes.
UP is the place to be,
Prof.
quote unquote.
All right. And then senior year, we got Grand. So, 3 out of my 4 years, I was with Kat, and we became, the best of friends. And I still talk to her to this day. She's actually a Twitch streamer now, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's cool.
I know.
All right. So we are going to turn it to our audience members. If you have a question for Sydnie, feel free to go up to the mic and ask it. And Marissa, once again, is right away, on her way. This is what we love, audience members who don't sit there and be like, what? And they look at each other and be like, what, am I supposed to go?
We're not going to bite.
I thought the whole Korean thing was very interesting. Have you ever thought about or planned on making a trip?
Yeah. That is probably in the works. It's just that it's a very expensive trip to take because those plane tickets are not cheap.
You can't just go to Korea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just go, unless you got a butt ton of money and you go, that it's not as plausible. So I have to save up first, right? I have to decide where I want to go in Korea first of all, which is probably Seoul, so the heart center.
Right. Is that the capital of Korea?
The capital is Seoul. They're kind of trying to move it to a different place, but
Really?
it is
Oh, okay.
essentially Seoul.
Interesting.
But yeah, I would like to go at one point in my life. I don't know if it's right now or soon or maybe 10 years, but I would like to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Marissa. Esther's got a question. All right.
Might be a hard one.
All right, so have worked in media services, getting a master's of leadership. Do you feel like media is sort of your future? Do you feel like if you had a dream job, what would it be? And does it entail what you're doing right now?
Yes and no. So my dream job, that term, when I hear people say that, it's like, what is something you see yourself doing in 10 years? Like, what career do you wish to build up? And in my mind, I feel like service is something that I want to see myself doing in 10 years, no matter what type of service it may be.
Yeah.
So I may not end up staying in technical live event production, but if it's some way of serving others, that's my dream job. So right now, my skills allow me to serve in technical live event with the visual and video side.
Yeah.
And so if I can continue to do that into the future, that'll work perfectly for me. Even if it's here, if it's somewhere else, if it's traveling around the world or around the country to do events, that's something that looks really fun to me.
That's cool. That's neat to hear.
Awesome.
It's awesome. I hope God continues to use you in that way.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Awesome.
Amen. Thank you, Esther. Marissa, do you have another question?
Okay. So you said you were homeschooled for high school. Would you have preferred to have been public schooled, or did you enjoy being homeschooled?
It would depend on which public school I got to go to, because not all public schools are the same. I think we all know that. But there are some public schools that I've seen online that essentially do a lot of what I was able to do as a homeschooler. Because as a homeschooler, I was essentially an online learner. I just had virtual classes, essentially what I did. I just had books and I watched classes and I did the work along with all the other kids in class. I just was doing it at my own pace rather than pushed along by the school system. But if I was at a public school that had like a bunch of extracurriculars and opportunities and good coursework and teachers who like loved their job and wanted to build up the students that they got, I would have loved to go to public school. But at that time and in the place that I was, that was not an option. And I don't know what I would have turned out to be if I wasn't homeschooled at the time. So.
Did you almost miss a social aspect when you were homeschooled, or were you kind of just like, I don't care?
For me, I think we mentioned it before, I wasn't really much of a people
Right.
person
That's
as
kinda what I
like
figured.
a middle schooler and high schooler, so I kind of stayed to myself. But the socialization aspect of homeschooling wasn't a problem because I saw my 3 other siblings. They did just fine. They were in sports. They were in other extracurriculars that allowed them to be around kids of their age and older ages and younger ages. So they got to socialize a whole bunch. So the socialization aspect of homeschooling isn't as narrow as it was in the past, I would assume. We have a lot more opportunities now, especially with the internet that connects people. So that's different. But for me, socialization probably did take a hit just because of my own personality, not because I was homeschooled. I was
okay.
like, I want to stay in my corner and read a book or my manga or my comics and just not talk to anybody. Even when I was at places where I needed to like socialize, I found a corner and did nothing. I just looked. I liked people watching. I just liked looking at your facial expressions and you're interacting with people rather than you interacting
But
with
stay
me.
away from me.
But stay away from me. But then I had to come to Olivet, which was essentially the first time I was in a school setting that was structured with other students since I was like in 2nd grade. So it had been, over 10 years since I was with a bunch of students the same age doing the same thing at the same time.
Dang.
And that's a very big difference. But I think as an 18-year-old, I was at the point where I was like, okay, I have to do this. So I have to get through it somehow. So when I came here, I was like, I'm just going to stay to myself. I have Kat. I have like maybe one other person, but I have Kat. If Kat's enough, let me just stick with her when I can. But it wasn't around her because she was a social butterfly. She liked finding new friends and new opportunities. And I was like, you go do that.
Yeah,
I'll
you
be
have
in my
fun.
dorm. I'll be watching my
I'll be
drama.
here when you come back.
Exactly. I'll be here when you come back. And essentially I was. She'd be coming in and I'll be like, hey, Kat. Bye, Kat.
She would come back where you were like already asleep, or were you still up?
We had similar sleeping arrangements. I think she stayed up later than I would, because I love going to sleep. I love sleep.
Sleep's awesome.
Please, people, sleep. It is your best friend because 7 hours just makes you feel wonderful in the morning. Okay? Anyways, that's a side tangent. But so I guess coming here forced me to open up. I was no longer that kid who just looked out the window and watched other kids play outside while she was inside reading a book. I had to step out of my little hut and actually go out there and expand my comfort zone rather than just being in this little house that I made for myself, that I was comfort. I was like, I have my books, I have my food, I have the things that I like, right? I had to leave that. I had to expand my comfort zone further and further as I grew older so that I wasn't, held back by myself. I wasn't going to hold myself back. There was opportunities in this world that I needed to take, and I wouldn't be able to take them if I didn't step out of that comfort zone. And each time I took steps out of the comfort zone that I had established, the larger my comfort zone became. And because of that, I am now who you see here today. Like in the past, maybe 3 years ago, had anyone asked me to be on a podcast, I would have been like, find somebody else.
I wondered that, like, this was like a couple years ago, like, would you say yes to being on the podcast or not?
If they really needed me, I would have been a reluctant yes. I would have been like, isn't there no one else?
It would have been a fine, not a yes.
Yes, it would have been like, fine, if you need somebody, I'll be here. But now it's like, yeah, I'll go on. Yeah. I'll see what it's like. I'll experience something new. That was the big thing. Experiencing something new each time of doing that, it filled me with anxiety, right? The good type of anxiety that gives you like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do well. But once you get into it, that anxiety just flies away. It goes away, yeah. Because you've expanded your comfort zone. And it just became something that I did each year, each semester that I was here until senior year came. And I did like my senior speech, which is like the big thing for the comm students, right?
That's the big thing for the comm students.
That is the big thing. I need, real side thing. Do you guys use cards now?
I don't know. Do seniors use cards for their exam? I don't think they do.
Either way, if you use cards, y'all need to let me know because I did not use cards. I did not have to. I was told not to use cards if at all possible.
It almost seems like they tell you that you can't. I don't know if that's correct. Someone fact check me. I don't know. But
y'all
it almost
will find
seems
out.
like yes.
Y'all will find out one day. Either way, senior speech, which is a big thing for comm students, that was like the highlight for me is stepping in front of a bunch of people, half of them I didn't even know, to give a speech that I had written, right? And I was like, I hope I do this well. I hope I get all the points correct. And I got up there. And from what my parents tell me and what other people tell me, I exuded so much confidence and assurance in myself when I gave that speech that it was like, you rocked it. You were awesome. And I was like, I did? Actually? Really? I did that well? And they're like, you were awesome. You were amazing. You had it. And I was like, all right, I guess I did. Right? So it was other people also like encouraging me and congratulating me and kind of giving their approval of what I did that kind of showed me that, okay, I can do this. I can step out of my comfort zone. I can grab these new opportunities and learn from them. And even if I make mistakes, right, that's just something I learn from, and I grow from it. And Olivet was that place. It was a safe, I wouldn't say bubble, but it was that safe environment for me to spread my wings, right, and become who I am today. And I think a lot of people who come to Olivet experience that, especially people like me who were just like avoidant of people. I would say antisocial. Yes, I was probably antisocial to the point where I'm now like someone who's fine sitting at a podcast with a kid I never met before. But you know what?
True.
You're
haven't
awesome.
met her before. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're awesome. So
that
was one thing that I'm very grateful for Olivet for was this environment that allowed me to essentially become myself. Right? I kind of locked myself in my own head as a kid, but now I feel me. This is me.
Amen to that. I was in the same boat. Like, I came in, like, really introverted. I still am introverted. I'm not going to lie, but holy smokes, I have spread my wings so much and broken out of my shell.
Exactly. You can be introverted, but not be, like, a hermit, right?
Yeah.
Introversion is just how you get energy. So I get energy by being by myself, recharging my battery, being okay with being myself for a few hours. And then I've got friends who are extroverts who would probably be depressed if they didn't see anybody for hours.
They wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
They wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what they said. They're like, I don't know what to do. What would I do? There's nobody here to talk to or play with or what. I don't know. And I'm just like, that sounds like heaven for me. Having no one talking to me for hours is amazing. But even though I have that, I can still go out, right, and do fun things with people. It's just I may get tired more easily and be like, all right, peace out. I'm going back home. I need to sleep.
Your
Right?
social battery is drained.
Exactly. It's just a social battery. Yeah. But you can get over that. You can become someone who loves being around people, just not for 7 hours straight.
It's true. Well, we are definitely out of time. The conversation was so good, I couldn't cut it off. But Sydnie, thank you for coming on the podcast. It means a lot.
Thanks for having me,
yeah,
guys.
Of course. It was a great time. We are definitely out of time. Holy smokes. Normally they go like 20 minutes to record. We're at 25 minutes. So Christina, have fun editing this later.
I did my job.
Yes, you did. You talked. That was for true. Well, I'm going to send it off here. If you are listening, see you later. And if you are watching, I guess, see you. I don't know. I just had the biggest brain fart of my entire life, didn't I? Speaking of brain farts, we were just talking about them. But, well, we'll see you later. See you in episode 5. And thank you for tuning in.